Last week, I explored the concept of Mary Sue's and analysed whether main protagonist Marinette/Ladybug exhibited qualities that made her a Mary Sue, based on 4 key indicators that are common across all Mary Sues. In short, I found that Marinette was pretty much a half Sue, not fully there, but very much at risk of it. So today I think it's only fair that we do the same for the other main protagonist of the show, Adrien/Cat Noir. Compared to Marinette, Adrien is a character that tends to fly under the radar in regards to accusations of Mary Sue-dom. Because often Marinette is the hero that's focused on the most, this often leads to discussions about how Adrien's underutilized in the wider story, as opposed to analysing his character in depth. But today, we're going to do just that. Like last time, we'll go through the 4 indicators and see what sticks. Indicator 1 is that the character is essentially perfect, all their endeavours succeed, and they're talented, popular, and beloved. Now even before we get into this, it feels right. Like this could have been a character synopsis for Adrien when they were pitching the show. But let's look a little deeper. For starters, as the civilian character, Adrien is literally almost perfect. He's handsome, rich and well connected, he's a famous model, an excellent fencer, a talented gamer, a good musician, and is multilingual. He's extremely popular at school, being liked by the entirety of his class except Lila, who's still obsessed with him anyway because of his status. At least 4 major characters are romantically inclined towards him to the point of obsession. Marinette stalks him, Chloe's always seeking his attention, Lila manipulates people constantly to get near him, and Kagami's whole character seems to revolve around him for the most part. He's kind and gentle, and he always looks out for his friends, and was chosen specifically by Fu to be Cat Noir out of everybody in Paris. And what's this counterbalanced by? A bad family life, a lacking understanding that no means no, and the complaint that he's not a hugely prominent hero, at least compared to Marinette. Whilst these are obviously negative traits, you have to look at them compared to the positives, and the positives vastly outweigh the negatives here. Indicator 2 is that the character is always right and always makes the correct decision. Now, when you initially think of Adrien, he expresses constant good morality and judgment in terms of other characters, so much so that Marinette's choices are often guided by his reactions to a problem. She often realises she's done something wrong from his input. But just because he appears morally good doesn't necessarily mean his decision making is always correct. This is proven multiple times in his judgment of other characters such as Chloe and Lila. For starters, he himself admits he doesn't always make the right choice. By all accounts, he knows he should cut off Chloe completely because of how she acts, but he doesn't because he has compassion towards her because she was his only real friend for so long. It's been shown that she's much more likely to listen to him, but he rarely puts his foot down to try and make her more reasonable. It's shown despite his belief that Chloe or Lila could become a better person, that he's just blatantly wrong. They continue to be terrible, thereby not making the correct decision, even though it feels like it should be the right one. And as his hero persona, it's not like he's always making great choices. He can be impulsive and reckless, and often acts before he really comes up with a plan, which results in him getting beat up. So for Indicator 2, I'd say that's a no. Indicator 3 is that the character makes other characters look terrible by comparison. Character traits and narrative will change on the flip of a coin to suit the Mary Sue. In essence, the Mary Sue's made to look better than everyone else at everybody else's expense. For Adrien, once again, I don't think this really applies. For his hero persona, Cat Noir is not a top tier level miraculous wielder. Ladybug's presented as the mastermind, the main star, the one who makes it all happen. Cat Noir is the Robin to her Batman. He's still a good hero who can hold his own, but he's not really on the same level of prominence or skill. Sometimes he beats up on the villains, sometimes he's beat up by villains. He's not unstoppable, and his shortcomings are consistent. Maybe the only instance where I could understand the argument that people act out of character when he's around is when the girls are trying to romance him, but even then, they act in ways that suit their character. Kagami's very direct and to the point, Marinette is silly and hopeless, Chloe's brash and abrasive, and Lila manipulates things to get closer to him. None of their characters are shifted to behave out of character, it just explores how their character would act in that context. So for point 3, no, I don't think he's a Mary Sue in this way. The final indicator is a tragic backstory that aims to make you feel sympathy for the hero and make them seem impressive for having overcome it. Adrien has one of the most ridiculous, sad backstories of all time. It just keeps going and going and going. For starters, his mother disappears and as far as he's aware, she's dead. His father's controlling and emotionally distant and strictly controls his social life. His father's hardly around and most of the time at home is spent with paid employees. He wasn't allowed to go to school and so was hardly able to form friendships and attachments until his teen years. One of his only friends through his childhood was Chloe, a budding narcissist. His uncle died, his cousin Felix, the closest thing he had to a sibling, stops talking to him, and when they reconnect, Felix is a turd, and the girl he likes constantly rejects him. This is a Mary Sue backstory. Seriously, if you look up a Mary Sue backstory in the dictionary, they should have a link to his wiki page. So for Adrien, he is, much like Marinette, a half Sue. Now ideally you don't want your 2 main characters to both walk the line of Mary Sue-dom so closely, but for Adrien I'm not really sure how to fix him. For Marinette, you can make the akumatized villain smarter and show the Hawkmoth starting to learn from his mistakes. This means Marinette can rely more on other heroes to help her without needing to actively dumb her down and change her character too much. But for Adrien, it's not as simple as all that. The categories that he's a Sue in aren't ones you can really change. You can't just change his backstory to be not as bleak, and you can't just retcon how perfect he is in all those ways I listed earlier. Therefore, we're stuck in this stalemate of Mary Sue versus underutilized. On one hand, he never really seems to get his big moments as a hero, but if you start to write those big moments in and make him Ladybug's complete equal, he becomes a full-on and blatant Mary Sue. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? Is Adrien a Mary Sue? Maybe he's not. How would you go about trying to change that? I'm looking forward to reading your thoughts. Let me know.